minus 3.3%, minus 9.1%, 75,275,
Oh boy, where do I start? You landed a project, there's a forum and they're asking for a date picker. What do? Do you snag a ready-made solution, like the material date picker? Do you use a native date picker? Do you use a third-party solution? Do you make your own? Or maybe you can just stick to simple input fields and call it a day. And what about accessibility? In this video, I'll go over the native date picker, explore the positives and negatives of using it, as well as take a look at some of the other options that are available to us. Before I show you the tests, I'd like to talk a little bit about accessibility. We'll spend a few minutes talking about different types of disabilities and the people they affect. Visually and hearing impaired. This includes blind individuals who use screen readers and braille displays. It also includes people with low vision who rely on magnifiers, high contrast or font adjustments, while colorblind users need sufficient contrast and text labels. For the deaf or hard of hearing, captions, transcripts and visual alerts are essential to ensure accessibility. Cognitive and learning impaired and neurodivergent users. For these users, having clear navigation and simple layouts help those with memory or attention issues. Readable fonts and plain language aid individuals with dyslexia or language disorders. And for users with autism, consistent, straightforward designs without overwhelming or flashing content are beneficial. Motor and physical impairment. This includes people with limited mobility who may use adaptive devices like eye trackers or switch systems, while those with tremors benefit from large touch targets and other interaction devices to help aid with the ease of use. As you can see, there's a huge spectrum of users here, some of which use keyboards, some of them use voice control, some of them use a switch device, some of them use eye tracking, and so on and so forth. Let's have a look at the input type date. It's super easy to implement. We have some great features out of the box, like a date picker, or an option to enter the date using the input field. It has internationalization and localization, and these features will rely on your browser and operating system configurations. For example, the way the date format is displayed between USA and the rest of the world. Yup, in USA, the date format is month, day, year versus the rest of the world, which is day, month, year. But don't be fooled here, this is just a visual trick. The actual date value is always saved in the year, month, day format, and some browsers might not even provide this feature. Next, imagine if you're using a different language, like in my case here, the language is Croatian, so the date picker automatically configures itself for my language preferences. This all sounds nice and it's somewhat accessible date picker, so what are the drawbacks? Well, for starters, this date picker looks different on every browser, and it behaves differently. For example, on Safari, when you tab onto the field, you will not get a date picker to show, unless you use JavaScript and the show picker option, which does not work on older versions. So right from the start, we are not consistent. The output format is year, month, day, and there's no way for you to dictate this. You can of course use JavaScript to manipulate this afterwards. Block dates can be navigated on some browsers, and on some browsers using a screen reader, the block dates are not announced as dimmed. Later I'll do some live testing with different configurations. Stick around to see where else the input type date fails. Accessibility here is of great importance, and although it works for the most part, there are still some issues here too, especially with, you guessed it, Safari browser. There are some missing nice to haves as well, things such as announcing the chosen date. I understand that achieving perfection is challenging, given the variety of screen readers options available. If you're not familiar, here's a list of some of the most widely used ones. You have JAWS, you have NVDA, you have VoiceOver, you have Narrator, and so on. Now, I'm gonna compare how different date pickers and inputs behave across various browsers. I won't be setting strict guidelines for what a date picker should include. However, if you're in Europe and USA, keep in mind that accessibility is crucial. Non-compliance could result in fines. Here are some basic accessibility considerations for a date picker. It has to be accessible via keyboard, it has to be accessible via mouse, it has to be accessible via touch, can be used while zoomed in, and if you want more specifics to aid you with the implementation, you can check out the keyboard support section on APG's website. Let's jump into our first test. First up, we got Chrome with VoiceOver.
minus 3.3%, minus 9.1%, minus 202,400%. Year start date, stepper.
Alright, what's with the minuses and the percentages? Come on, Chrome. I mean, yeah, you shouldn't be using VoiceOver with Chrome, but the WebAIM survey suggests that 2% of users actually prefer this method. This is a little bit weird. Anyway, moving on. There is this button at the end which is interactable, and it shows the picker.
Thursday, the 5th of December, 2024. 5. Table. 7 columns. 6 rows. End of text. Friday the 6th of December, Friday the 13th of Thursday the 12th of December.
Okay, this is another great feature where you actually get to hear the name of the day of the week, the name of the month, the day of the month, and where you are in the table. If you try to navigate fast in the date picker when using a screen reader, nothing is being skipped, everything is being read out correctly. Now the only problem here is once I've selected a date of 12th December, it would have been nice to kind of get a reconfirmation of the chosen date. But instead of that, the focus is put back on the actual button, which is alright but not ideal. Next up we have Safari with voiceover.
0. Day stepper. 0. Month stepper. 0. Year stepper. 1. 275,700. 0. 0.
Oh boy, where do I start? Well, first, when you focus on the input, there's no date picker being shown. Now you can't argue if that's a good thing or a bad thing, and it's kind of like an opinionated thing. Anyway, since these are like steppers here, you can see when I get to the year, when I press the up arrow, it goes up to like 270,000 something. Even though we have the maximum date set to 2025, Chrome browser doesn't let you to go past the maximum date. Now that's a bit crazy, honestly. Another drawback here is that the label is not being read out. Now if you change the type to text, all of a sudden the label starts working. As soon as you put type date, label is being ignored.
11 6 0 6 7 8 9 10 9 8 7 6 11 10 11 6.
When we force the picker to show, you cannot actually navigate via the picker. You're still navigating via the steppers in the input. So it's kind of useless because even changing the dates and the months, they do not reflect on the actual picker. And not to mention the reconfirmation of the chosen date, that doesn't exist. Also, reading the names of the days and the months, that also doesn't exist. All you hear is the numbers. Next up, we have the ARIA authoring practices guide example.
8mm/dd/y edit text 2 12/0202 to 4 2024.
Alright, first impressions are, it's alright. It looks a bit ugly, but then again, it is what it is. You can add your dates using the input. It works alright.
Change date, Monday the 2nd of December, 2024, button.
This is definitely a good feature. When you head over to the button, it tells you what it is, and it tells you the currently selected date.
Choose date, web dialog with 8 items, previous year, button, December, 2024. Cursor keys can navigate dates.
Some great information there for the users, especially telling them that they can use the cursor keys to navigate through the dates.
17, 11, 20, 27. Your change date, Friday the 27th of December, 2024, button. You are current 12F.
Alright, here I was spamming the cursor keys and you can see that some of the dates were being skipped, they were not being announced. And then you can obviously add characters into the input field. That's not handled. You'll have to write a little bit of JavaScript to handle that too. But then again, this picker, it's good, but it's missing a lot of the functionalities that you get from the native date picker, like the internationalization and localization. Although, to be fair to the guys, they do tell you that this example is not production ready. Next up, we have the Ministry of Justice date picker. This is the Ministry of Justice in United Kingdom. They have a design system here and a date picker component.
Dialog pop-up button. December 2024 web dialog with 8 items. Thursday the 5th of December 2024 current date button. December Friday the 13th of Friday the 20th of December. Thursday the 19th of December.
Very similar to the APG's example. You have an input and a button. You got a full calendar with controls. The names of the days, the names of the months are being read out, which is great.
Choose date. Selected date is Thursday the 19th of December 2024. Dialog pop-up button.
Once again, once you choose a date, the selected date is being read out to us thanks to the visually hidden class that they're using, which is added on a span inside of the button.
Excluded date. Excluded date. Thursday the 7th, Tuesday the 15th of April. Select December. Excluded date. Tuesday, leaving January 2023. Select button. You close.
It's nice to see that disabled dates are being handled. As you can see there, we're getting excluded date. There are some quirkiness when you use it, if you try and put characters and stuff in it. I guess that again will depend on how you will handle it with your JavaScript. One little problem is if you navigate to disable dates and you try and use the select button, the select button is actually enabled, so it kind of does allow you to interact with it, but there's no action on it. All in all, it's a great little example that shows you how you can handle different interactions. Again, since this is coming from the UK, I don't think it has options for translations, for example, but that's something you can always add later on. And lastly, we have the gov.uk design system date input component.
Day, edit text. When was your passport issued? 2019. 02. Content selected. Month, edit text. 02. Content selected. Day, edit text. When was your passport issued? For example, 27/3/2007.
And this component has taken a totally different approach. And this approach is viable depending on the use case. It is an interesting example using a field set element to help group a couple of inputs and labels. It's a straightforward and effective approach, particularly useful for dates that you already know, such as your birthday, for example. And that is it, guys. We have reached the end of our little tests. I did test a couple of other pickers offline, like the Shad Cience picker, but I also found issues there too. So there's no perfect solution as of yet. The native input type date is quick, efficient, and an easy solution, provided you're willing to accept its drawbacks, such as the unattractive appearance on Safari and the lack of certain features as discussed in the video. But on the other hand, it offers excellent flexibility for internationalization and localization, and it can save us a significant amount of time. It's especially effective if we sprinkle a little bit of JavaScript and CSS on top of it to help us rectify some of the annoyances that we've seen. Every tool has its purpose, time, and place depending on the problem we're trying to solve. And as we've seen, in some cases, we don't even need a date picker. Sometimes, a few simple input fields are all it takes to get the job done.